I was wrong about Palworld. When I'm wrong about a game, I will always admit that I've made a mistake in my judgments of it, and I could not have been more wrong about this game. So in this video, I'm going to kind of explain why I was skeptical of this game going in and how it has kind of sucked me in. I'm currently at level 30. I have about 16 hours in the game, so I have a long way to go. But as you can see, I have quite a bit unlocked. So let me first talk about why I was skeptical of this game. The main reason for that is the developers, Pocket Pair, had previously released a game called Craftopia, which I played. I did a video on it a couple years ago. That game is still in early access, and they have still not finished it. It kind of did a lot of things, but none of them really well. And my concern going into this game was, how are they going to create a new game when their previous game had not even been finished, right? So what it looks like is that I think that they used Craftopia as a test bed for Palworld, which was their ultimate goal in terms of creating a game. And it seems that they've done very well with that, right? If you go look at the Steam charts for Craftopia, it has a peak player count of somewhere around 27,000. Meanwhile, Palworld has been over 2 million peak players for the last several days. So it has, Craftopia only had about 1%, a little over 1% of the peak players that this game did. So it looks like this game was honestly their end goal, and it has worked out really well. So why has this game become so popular? The reason this game has become so popular, in my opinion, is because what it has done, it has taken something that people are really familiar with, which is the creature collecting genre, specifically Pokemon. The game is heavily inspired by Pokemon. There's other games in this genre, Digimon and stuff like that, and other spinoffs. I believe there was Temtem as well. But what it's done is it's taking something that people are really familiar with. So if you just jumped into this world and see the gameplay loop right at the beginning of capturing creatures, it looks so familiar that it's very easy to jump into and kind of become familiar with it. Pokemon itself is the third best-selling video game franchise of all time, and it's the #1 grossing video game franchise of all time because of the cards, the movies, all of the merchandise and stuff like that. So pretty much anybody who's into video games would more likely than not be familiar with Pokemon, or even in terms of like entertainment and stuff like that. So Pokemon is widely known, and this game, when you look at it, just looks very similar to Pokemon, for better or for worse. Now, I will say that I have no problem with that. Directly copying a game, like one for one, I have a problem with that. But something I've been preaching a lot lately has been what I think games should do is kind of take the best features of other games and just put them into their own game, right? So instead of just creating everything from scratch and kind of trying to make your own thing, what have other games done well? And what could you use from those games to be able to make your game better and make it appeal to more people? And what they've done is they've taken the creature collection aspect, as you've seen that I'm doing here, and rather it just being like a turn-based thing, they've made it open world action combat, basically. So either I can be involved in the combat, or I can have my pals involved in the combat. And it just, to me, it just adds, it's so much better than Pokemon, right? In terms of the combat style. Turn-based combat, I used to love turn-based combat when I was younger, but now I'm kind of at a point where I don't really care much for turn-based combat. It feels too slow to me, and I'm just more interested in the action combat because it just feels better as of right now. And speaking of the combat, something that it does really well is, as you can see here, I have my little Ruby here. This is one of the fire enemies in the game. So if I go to the survival guide, which they have a huge thing here that tells you basically everything about the game, we'll go down here to elements. This looks probably very familiar to most people. This is the elemental system where water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats ground, ground beats electricity. And then, of course, if you go backwards, like fire, you don't want to use fire against water, but fire is also good against ice. There's dragon, dark, and neutral. So they have all these different elements in here, which are going to be familiar to anyone who's ever played a creature collecting game, or honestly, a lot of RPGs in general, because a lot of RPGs also use the elemental system in terms of strengths and weaknesses. So that right there just makes it very easy for someone to dive in and start playing it. What else it does really well is it has a addictive gameplay loop. And the reason I say that is because there's kind of always something to do. Another thing I've been talking about a lot lately is when I'm playing a video game, if I spend 2 or 3 minutes running from point A to point B and there's nothing in between, then it gets very, very boring, and I just kind of don't want to explore the world. It's all about like fast traveling and stuff. You can see here, if I just spin in any direction, there's a multitude of things. There's a fast travel statue there. There's items laying on the ground. There's a giant enemy up there. There's one flying. I just killed a couple on the way here. Here's a pal sphere. There's ore to be mined over there. There's trees here. There's rocks there. There's a building off in the distance with an NPC. There's another tower up here. There's a big tower off in the distance there. There's always something. It's like old piece of candy. That was kind of something I joked about when I was playing. I can't remember which game it was a couple months ago, where it's like, oh, piece of candy. There's always something to grab, something to collect, something to do. So that addictive gameplay loop, and you're kind of always progressing. You can capture, I don't know how many pals you can get up total, but I mean, there's over 100 different pals. You can capture as many of each one as you want until you fill up your pal box, and you can breed them. You can do all kinds of stuff. There's variations of them. It's just the gameplay loop of it is you just kind of just want to keep playing it. And I was kind of surprised because honestly, I've never been into creature collecting games. They've not really been my thing, and this game kind of has changed that because of the way it's been implemented. So in addition to that, there's a lot of things to unlock, which I'll just quickly touch upon. I'm not going to go through all of these. There are currently 50 levels in this technology tree. I've only unlocked up to level 30, but have not even unlocked everything. The ones that are unknown, I'll discover by fighting different enemies or discovering different things. I guess resources and stuff like that, that's how they unlock. So there is tons and tons and tons of stuff to unlock. There's the PAL deck here, which is going to have all the different PALs in it. As I said, I think there's 100. Yeah, there's 111. And you'll notice that I've not even collected all of them. I'm not even close to all of them. And many of them, the ones that are grayed out, I've seen, but I've not actually captured or even fought them. There's also going to be collectibles around the map that will increase your ability to enhance your pals. You can enhance yourself. So there's little green effigy statues that are around the map, and those can be collected. They increase your chances of capturing pals. You're going to level yourself up. So if we look at the character creation, or the character screen here, you can enhance your stats, which definitely a lot of things to unlock there. There's different weapons and armors you can unlock as well. Accessories, there's gliders. You can also fly. So I guess I'll just fly on my mount real quick. I have a flying mount that I unlocked the other day. So the fact that it has mounts just makes traversal so much easier. Now, this is by no means one of the better mounts in the game. This is kind of the first one I found. There's land-based mounts, there's flying mounts. So, oh, I want to get up on top of this hill up here. Guess what? I can just fly up here and get on top of it. So the gameplay loop, the ability to unlock, there's always something else to unlock, at least at this point, has I think that's something that is definitely keeping people involved in the game. The game also has some survival aspects in it. I wouldn't consider it a pure survival game because honestly, the creature collecting seems to be far more of the the gameplay loop. But you'll see here, there's lots of crafting stations. You'll be collecting wood and stone at the beginning of the game as well as ore, and there's also the palladium that you need to craft certain things. You can end up automating a lot of that or most of it. You'll see here that there's this tree here that can be infinitely chopped by this pal. It's already collected over 900 wood. So wood becomes not an issue at some point. You have the rock quarry here that's also going to reduce that. I have a base setup where I have my pals collecting ore and processing it. So ore, hopefully in the very near future, will not be an issue. There's farming in the game. So it does have a lot of aspects of survival. But what it does really well is it allows you to automate them. Now, you cannot... At least up to this point, I've not figured out how to fully automate them. I'm not sure if you can fully automate them. So you can't fully automate things up to this point just yet. I have this little base set up over here. This is my second base. I set it up here because it has lots of ore, and ore is going to be one of the resources you're going to need a lot of. So what I have going on here is I have 3 different pals collecting ore. One of them is gathering it and putting it in the box here, and then this one's processing it. So I haven't figured out how to fully automate this. Hopefully later on or at some point in the future, you'll be able to fully automate it. Because right now I don't have any way to take the ore from here that's been collected and put it in the oven here so it can just be constantly processed and I can come back and it'll be finished. But you can automate a lot of things like the wood collection, like the ore collection, like the rock collection, food collection as well, because you do have to feed yourself and the pals. So they do a really good job of being able to automate things. There's also, I think, a thing that's going to possibly keep a lot of people playing this long term, aside from the fact that there's a lot of things to collect, is going to be the min-maxing. So if I go to my party here and I just pick this first pal here, pals all have stats. So over here on the right, it's going to tell you their attack, defense, their work speed. It's going to also tell you their suitability, so what they're good at. This Fwack here is good at watering, is good at handiwork, which is basically crafting things, and it's good at transporting, which will be like taking the ore from the ground and putting it in the box. It also is going to have different active skills over here, which you can swap out when you unlock the ability to do so. It's also got passive skills here. So this one has a 20% increased move speed, and it also has 100% decreased incoming lightning damage. There are lots and lots of different passive skills that you can unlock, and what ends up happening is you can breed or combine the pals into making new pals, and you can kind of just figure out how to breed the traits that you want for specific pals. There's also different levels of pals. So if I look at like these guys right here have the Pen Kings have level 2 mining. That's why I have them doing mining, because the level 2 mining will specifically have them targeting the ore, where level 1 mining will target rocks instead. The Tombat also has level 2 mining, so that's why I have it set up there. So there's min-maxing in terms of that, and we actually have a raid going on here, which was something I was about to talk about, and I honestly did not plan this. Hopefully we don't get everybody destroyed. Oh, this is probably going to be pretty bad. I might lose this entire setup here, and I've died. So the game has base raids. Yeah. Unfortunately, the base raid occurred for me. Actually, probably fortunately here, the base raid occurred for me. I'm just not even going to respawn here, because more likely than not, I'm going to get completely wrecked. Those were level 31 enemies. I've not even fought level 31 enemies. So basically, the game has base raids, and it looks like any one of your bases is going to get attacked. I guess it's whichever one you're closest to. I'm going to be honest, that base raid there, I'm not prepared for it over there because I have nothing set up here. I have this base set up so that they will attack. They mostly spawn either up here on this hill, so I've kind of like funneled them through here, or they'll sometimes spawn down the bottom and they'll come up through, I'll have them come through that gate. And the base raids do have some defenses. There's some defenses you can put up. I haven't fully explored that, but honestly, that base over there, I'm just going to let it, whatever happens, happens. They're probably going to get completely wiped out because they're all low level, and there's just, well, they actually didn't destroy anything. They just incapacitated all my pals. So because they're incapacitated, what that means is they have to be put in the pal box for a certain amount of time. So I'll just throw them in here, 10 minutes, and they'll be back up and running. So I like the fact that they have base raids. Unfortunately, that one didn't go well, so I didn't really get to showcase it very well. And it looks like, I guess, are they leaving? Are they coming back? Those guys were level 31. There's no way, even with my actual, like, leveled up pals, I would have been able to fight them. They would have probably completely destroyed me anyway. So I'm going to have to get my... in 10 minutes, I'll be able to get this going again. So the fact that it has base raids, and I'm going to be able to test out, like, how they work. I'm going to build defenses and stuff around my bases and kind of just figure out, is there a good way to funnel them? Is there good defenses and stuff like that? I really like that idea. I'm not sure everybody likes that idea. And guess what? If what you just saw you don't like, you can just go into the game settings and disable base raids so you don't get base raids. So that's pretty cool too. Also, if you find any system to be too grindy, you can just end up you can change these sliders, like increasing XP from the XP gain rate from the default of 1 all the way up to 20 times experience. You can increase the resources you get. You can decrease damage done from enemies. There's basically, you can just kind of fully customize it, so play it however you want. And then the other thing is going to be, you're going to notice there's really no quest for me to do right now. After the tutorial, so you'll get a tutorial pretty early on in the game that'll tell you kind of the basics of the game, and then after that's finished, you just kind of do what you want. So there's this giant map. I haven't even explored anywhere close to all of it. I believe most of it is populated, but I've kind of went to all these areas. These areas are going to have lots of different things to do. Each biome will have possibly different pals. The further out you explore, the higher level they're going to be. There's also going to be some roaming world bosses. So this one's catchers. There's bosses like this. The grassy behemoth, which is the one that I saw just down here somewhere not that long ago, which is the giant green little woolly mammoth thing. Those are wandering world bosses that you can fight. Some of them are aggressive, some of them are passive. There's also tower bosses. You could consider these kind of like the trainers from Pokemon. I think there's 5 of them right now. You'll notice here is the first one. This is the one you do to finish the tutorial. So I've defeated that one. I haven't fought any of the other ones. There's also going to be kind of like mini bosses that are in arenas that you can fight. There's also dungeons you can explore. So there's just a ton of stuff to do. And you can kind of like, once you're finished the tutorial, or even if while you're doing the tutorial, you can just wander out and do whatever you want. A lot of time, like the lower level pals generally are not going to end up being aggressive. It's going to be the further out you explore, you're going to start running into aggressive ones. So the first like 5 or 10 hours, if you don't wander terribly far, you'll end up just being able to kind of explore freely and not have to worry about getting completely destroyed by every single enemy that you run into, because most of them are just not aggressive, and you'll learn which ones are aggressive and which ones aren't. So all in all, like right now, this game just has so much to do. Now, in terms of depth, does it have a ton of depth? I don't know if it has a ton of depth, but it does have a lot of stuff to do. I think where the depth is going to come in is if you're interested in min-maxing your pals, min-maxing the automation. That is something that I like to do. I like to min-maxing games. So being able to do that will it'll probably keep me playing for longer than I expected. In the future, there's a lot of things they have planned. The one thing I think that will probably end up being the best thing for keeping people around or coming back would be the ability to have PvP. Now, there's 2 kinds of PvP they've been talking about. One of them is going to be player versus player PvP. I personally don't think that's going to end up doing all that well, to be completely honest, because I don't expect PvP between players to do that well. I kind of think the better idea is the arena they have, which is going to be where you throw your pals out. I guess the pals versus pals, you just put them up against other. I don't know if it'll be solo or if you do teams or something like that. I think that has a better chance of keeping people playing. Raiding people's bases, it might work in this game. I know it works in other games, but I really don't think this game would. I don't think it would fit this game. Kind of feel like the audience this game would probably be more interesting in just taking the best pals they breeded or they found and leveled up and putting them against other people's pals rather than inserting themselves in the combat. So yeah, overall, to me, this game, like I said, I was completely surprised about it. I'm definitely going to put some more hours in it. So I know I spent most of this video talking about all the things the game does really, really well. I do want to mention a couple things that I hope they improve in the future. One thing is going to be the pathing of the pals. That's one of the things that's at the top of their to-do list. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. It might not be happening right now, but because I built my base here, what ends up happening is even with these walls, somehow some of the pals will just, and there's one right there. Perfect example. So this little fox, for some reason, tends to fall down here. That's the guy that's producing my ore. So the AI pathing, they just kind of walk off the ledge there. So what I have to do down here is I have to figure out which one he is, and then I'm going to have to go over here, put him in the box, and then put him back. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Put him back, and then it'll kind of respawn here, and he won't be stuck anymore. So the AI pathing definitely needs a little bit of work. I would also say that I think durability and the weight limits kind of early game. Later on, the durability is not that big of an issue because you really don't need to repair that much because you're basically using your pals for everything. But the weight issue is a big thing. It's why if you look at people's stats, they spec into weight heavily at the beginning of the game, or most people tend to do it. Carrying the resources from, like as an example, if I chopped up this rock at the very beginning of the game, I don't know if it's one rock or two of them. Very quickly, you'll fill up your weight, and then it just takes forever to transport things. So I hope I kind of want them to just like reduce the weight by like 50%, honestly, for all the items, just to get rid of that tediousness, and then fix the AI pathing. There's other things that hopefully they'll add, like the ability to hot deposit. You can hot deposit if you open a chest, but the ability to be able to just straight up hot deposit or assign like boxes to things. One thing the pals do is they'll put resources in the same boxes. So this one has seeds. A lot of times this one will also have seeds. It doesn't have it this time, kind of because they're full. But they'll end up putting like a couple seeds in here, a couple wood in here, a couple wood in here. Then over here, they'll have more seeds and more wood. It's almost like they put it in the first one they find. So just some minor things that I think they can fix. The AI pathing is going to be the big one. I don't know how easily they can fix that, but hopefully they do. So that's Palworld. Like I said, I've never been more wrong about a game in the many, many years that I've been playing video games. If you're enjoying the game, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.